That's him?
Yeah.
Where's this from? 5 years ago.
I was feeling on my way, I was 10 years old, walking underneath the blanket of West Virginia snow. Then I walked right by, no trespass sign, yeah, the grass looked green across property line. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
You know, he could probably do, if he does he could probably be real famous.
Well,
he's got a certain look.
That dude will sit there and he'll just like, we'll just be sitting there at like 2 a.m. and he'll just all of a sudden do this little thing. And he's got like the most amazing first part of this like song, or we just started to co-write together like in the last few months. So I'm really excited for that. But if you go to his, this is really funny too. I'm sorry, Draven. I love you, man. So go to videos and go to oldest first. This is what's so awesome about Draven. He was originally working for this lady who was trying to develop different types of hair care products, but he thought the market was too saturated. So he was going to get into beard oil. So he created Radio WV as like a fake plug page for his Burly Boy beard brand he was working with. So like, click, like if you look at, like that very first video, it's like, it's got all his beard products. If you look, there's multiple ones like that.
Yeah.
So he started it just to do this beard thing with, and then like, I don't know, he just kind of felt called to like keep going with it, and it just sort of naturally progressed.
Yeah, that too is inspiring. Like you start out one way and then you discover something real special. I mean, he's got an eye for how to bring out, I don't know what it is, like both the audio side and the video side, how to bring out the best in person.
He says he just wants it to sound like the way he likes hearing it, which kind of makes sense, you know? Like it's kind of in the same way talking about when we were talking about setting the cameras up and a professional would tell you needed 3 lights. And you're like, well, I think it would work with he's just kind of like, well, it'll just work like this. And
do it in a way where he likes it. Yeah, just do it for yourself.
He does it because he loves it. And you can see, it shows, you know?
Yeah, you can see it in there. And there's some good talent. Like you were showing me this new lady, Gabriel.
Yeah, she's got it. But not a lot of people would record her doing that song. But he's like, I don't know, it just was different. I just thought people ought to hear it. But it was a blessing that he came along when he did. It was like, it really changed both of our lives.
We got to talk about that. So you posted the song Men North of Richmond on August 8th, 2023.
I remember I was at work that day when it went up, yeah.
So it blew the fuck up, straight to number 1 on the charts, tens of millions of views and listens. And a few days later, on August 17th, you made a post that I thought was pretty gangster. It was beautiful and gangster. So one of the things you said is, it's been difficult as I browse through the 50,000 plus messages and emails I've received in the last week. The stories that have been shared paint a brutally honest picture. Suicide, addiction, unemployment, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, and the list goes on. And then you went on to write, people in the music industry give me blank stares when I brush off $8 million offers. I don't want 6 tour buses, 15 tractor trailers, and a jet. I don't want to play stadium shows. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I wrote the music I wrote because I was suffering with mental health and depression. These songs have connected with millions of people on such a deep level because they've been sung by someone feeling the words in the very moment they were being sung. No editing, no agent, no bullshit. Just some idiot and his guitar. The style of music that we should have never gotten away from in the first place. So, huge props for that. For walking away from lucrative multi-million-dollar record deals. And I'm sure the money that was just coming your way. Huge props. You know, moments happen where, you know, the world tests you. And integrity is what you do in those moments. So, huge props for that. What was your philosophy? What was your thinking behind that?
It was all those messages I got. I mean, you can see it in the comment sections of a lot of the videos after everything happened, but people just like felt this spark, like, wow, like maybe we actually have a chance to, like, maybe we actually do have some kind of power, you know? Like those people put that song there, nobody else, and like gave me the opportunity to make, even without signing anything, I was still able to make millions of dollars and have financial freedom. And like, I just felt like, if I was going to do anything like that I'd be betraying, like I would be taking those people and almost betraying them somehow, you know? I hate the big machine just like everybody else. And the last thing I'd want to do is ever support it or be a part of it. Like I want to watch it crash and burn, you know? Like,
see, this is the really important thing is whether it was betrayal or not, we'll never know. but you felt like that it was, and to have the integrity to walk away from the bag of money when you felt that way, that's fucking epic.
It was also, you got to think, a couple months before this, like, of course, I had a wife and kids that I loved, and like I had a lot of really important things to live for, but I didn't have a whole lot to lose. Like none of this was even really real. Like I didn't care about that. Like I didn't care to lose this just as quick as I got it. Like this didn't mean anything to me. It just meant something to me that like that I could do something for. Like, it's like, even if I'm not smart enough to figure out how to fix some of my own problems in my life, the fact that I felt like I could help fix somebody else's, like, that meant a hell of a lot more to me than any. That's what I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose those people's trust or like feel, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so I've just tried to make every decision around like as best as I can, like what I think the right thing is to do. And who knows what the hell the right thing is to do, but I just try to follow, we all have that little voice in us like that. We all have and I think sometimes we mask, it's hard for us to listen to that little voice, whether it's like, whether it's our gluttony or our lust or our, we numb ourselves with medications or with alcohol, or we scroll on YouTube for 4 hours a night, and instead of, because we don't want to listen to our conscience. But there is this like very intelligent, discerning thing inside of us that's able to tell us what's right and wrong. And it's a spiritual thing, I guess. And I just try to listen to that when I can. I don't know. I just still feel like I haven't done enough.
I think you did a lot. I think you're an inspiration. You've helped a huge number of people, and you're also an inspiration to the other side of it, which is the artists and just the humans to have integrity. I don't think people realize how much of a test of integrity fame, money, power also is. Rogan and I talk about this quite a bit. We get to see, Joe especially, but I've had a bit of the same. You get to see people become famous, and you get to see how they deal with that. And it's not easy. A lot of people will sell themselves a bit, sell the soul a bit, give away a bit of their integrity, of the spirit that made them who they are. You get caught up in the wave of it, and so to keep on holding on to that's a powerful thing. That's a really
that's all I got though.
Yeah.
When you lose that, what the hell are you like? And you see it, like you see these celebrity people that just like fall off this, they go off the deep end. It's like, you have to have something in your life to keep you centered and to keep you, your whole perception of reality and like your just existence in reality is all contingent upon this sort of like this center that you exist in. And you have to, if you don't have that, then you're just flying through space. We're all just riding on this rock that's going who knows how fast.
Mm-hmm. You said something, I think to Jocko, that I really liked. Everything that has purpose behind it comes with risk. So there in that moment, you're taking a hell of a risk.
I was terrified. I talked about this a little bit with him too, but I was terrified to even put the song out. Like, I knew I was going to be the subject of scrutiny and judgment, and I knew people were going to like, I kind of knew all that was going to happen. I was like, going back to that, talking about crowds, like to stand in front of thousands of people and everybody be in some sense of unity. Like a lot of times when I end the shows, I'll always end with a statement that just says, no matter what, like, no matter how you feel when you go online, everyone feels so small and insignificant and powerless. But I just say, no matter how they make you feel online, or when you turn on the TV, or when you look at polling numbers or whatever, like when you just look at all this trash that we digest every day, like there will always be more of us than them, and all that. But like to see that, like just to see the light in people's eyes when you say that. But the truth is like, and it's like, who is us and who is them? And it's like, us just represents humanity, and like, and all the things we talked about so far, like just, the fire and the chaos, but also the love and just life. Life is just such a crazy, complicated, beautiful, disastrous thing. And then them is like, it's the power structure. It's that same terrible side of us that created things like the Soviet Union and is ultimately what's created this monster that we all live under today, which now doesn't just exist within the confines of the Soviet Union, but seems to almost be a global epidemic.
And then that song became the rebel call against that, against the power structures that creates that.
Yeah, it's like, how much fire am I willing to play with? Because I know at some point I am going to get burned from it. I just pray a lot that God, I don't have a lot of self-worth in myself anyway, so I don't really care what they say or do to me, or I don't care, like, I don't even care if I die, whatever. Just don't just protect the people I love is all. That's all I ask of God. I have this dream of just creating this parallel system that sits beside all these stupid systems that we live under, that are all sort of engulfed in this thing that we talked about at the beginning, this type of structure, you know, where none of us, where we're all just robots. And it's like, if we hate, you know, if we hate the way music is, and all these artists are complaining about the way the venues are monopolized and the ticket sales are monopolized, and let's just go find other places to play music, because there's so many people hungry for music in places that don't ever get it. And if you look at it, there's so many passionate people that are fighting all these different causes, like just in food. It's the word they use for more or less starvation. It's a more polite, it's called food insecurity. But if you look up just in Virginia, just where I live in Virginia, in the rural areas, how much food insecurity there is, and how many empty vacant farms there are. It's like, this is an obvious problem that we should be on Twitter talking about nonstop. Like, this is like, everyone has to eat, you know? It don't matter what you vote for, or what you look like, or any of that crap. You can, you know, like, so, like, let's just, like, why are we living in a country where why are we living in a country where half of us are obese and eating shit food and don't know any better, and then the other half of us don't have, like, it's lack of leadership that's caused dysfunction. And so if we're tired of that, then let's just fix it. Like, we don't need anybody's permission. Like, that's the whole beauty. Like, that's the whole beauty of what America is like, we don't need some greasy haired corporate schmuck to give us permission to go fix all these things that are wrong. Let's just go do it. And if they don't like it, fuck them, you know?
In all domains of life, from food to the music industry, honestly, to education, also to government itself, all of it. And that, you know, your music is also just the soundtrack to that spirit that makes America great, of just constantly trying to revitalize itself. When the bullshit piles up a little too high, there's that revolutionary spirit that says, like, we need to fix this shit.
And that inspiration that created this country was from years of people living under tyranny. Like, we forget the story of the people who really created this country. Like, it's funny, one of the statements I made at the very beginning that got taken way out of context, but I wasn't in a position to, like, even begin to have a conversation about, is I made this comment early on at one of the shows about how our diversity is a strength. But that term has been hijacked now to mean something a lot different than what it really means. Mm-hmm. But it's like, think about how many different people came together just at the founding of this country. Like, people who spoke different languages, different cultures, religions, ways of thinking. So many different people came together to even create this place now. And, like, we've just forgotten about all that. They didn't all come here because they wanted to ride on some miserable boat ride and risk their whole lives to go to live in some crazy jungle, essentially, that had no structure, like no infrastructure, no medicine, like, they didn't come here for, like, some glorified camping trip. It's because they were tired of, like, generations of being persecuted and living under tyranny and not being allowed to practice their, you know, it's not like they wanted freedom of religion and they didn't want separation of church and state because they were a bunch of goody two-shoes and they loved going to church every Sunday. It's because they weren't allowed to believe in what they believed in because some asshole king or some hierarchy told them they couldn't, and they were just tired of it. That's what we're losing now. It's like, we've forgotten that we're those people. Like, the same structures that have plagued this country they're multinational corporations, and it's just the ideology behind them, and their structure is what the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, it's multinational corporations, it's nation states that are deeply corrupt and are authoritarian and ultimately abuse power, and yes, create elements of tyranny. And from that, the human spirit rises. Like I said, with songs like the ones you write, or at the founding of this country, you know, that's why all these diverse outcasts come together and write something as crazy as all men are created equal. What a gangster line. Like, that's not an easy thing. We take a lot of that stuff for granted now. But that's not an easy thing to come up with. That's a really gutsy thing to see the value in all people equally. And of course, they also were suffering from delusion. You know, they didn't see black people as equal. They didn't see women as equal. But even that first leap of, like, all men are created equal, that's like a gigantic fuck you to the past.
Taking that leap forward really took a lot in an age and a time when probably sounded and it's not like they just made a statement and put it on Twitter. Like they like think about how much, just think about the insanity. Like I can't even conceptualize the insanity of what took place from the time that, like even from the Revolutionary War until now, to try to preserve that idea, you know. So like so much has happened and so much sacrifice has been made and just so many hours of labor and thought and intensity.
Even the 20th century has got 2 world wars, and you know, especially in the Second World War, the United States played a very crucial role, and there was a lot of ideological, like, battle of ideas going on at that time.
Yeah.
Of the role of war and peace, of the role of the United States as the center place for the ideal of human freedom and human rights. Yeah, we continue to innovate. So I'd love to get back to talking to blue collar people. You mentioned those are some of my favorite people. So it was actually really cool to find out that for many years of your life, basically the way you made a living is talking to blue collar people and getting their story. So I'm traveling across the world for a bit, but of course the world that I love the most and I'm most curious about is the different subcultures and towns of the United States. So I took a road trip across the U.S. in my early 20s for several months, and that was like a transformative experience for me. And that's something. One of the luxuries I have is to have the freedom to do whatever the hell I want now, and so I want to take a road trip across the United States for several months. And one of the things I wanted to do is to just to talk to people in small towns in middle America. I don't know what words to put on it, but to talk to the very people that you talked about, that you know, construction workers, plumbers, waitresses, oil rig workers, just people that do something real, people that are real, that don't make much money, that struggle, but have as you talked about, have like a richness to them that's not often revealed, that's not often talked about. So maybe can you speak to that, to your time with blue collar folk?
When I got all those messages we were talking about earlier in this, like so many of them, and even now, it's even like in the last couple of days, I've gotten some where they start with, "Hey, I'm a nobody," but like that's how a lot of those start, you know, like the nobodies of the world, if you want to call them. Like it's frustrating that the people who literally have built and preserve and maintain the structure of society that we all comfortably live in, those people have the least amount of representation. They're ignored just because of the way the social hierarchy exists. But some of the most dim-witted, irrelevant, terrible people are put here and are idolized and spotlighted, and they're all over television and they're all over the internet, and we act like they're kings and queens and like that they're royalty. And then all these people who do jobs that most of us will be too terrified, either wouldn't have even the ability to do. We'd be like how many people are going to go underwater and weld? But if we didn't have underwater welders, like one of my best friends, whose name is also Jocko, funny enough, the dude works 70, 80 hours every week. He's on the Chesapeake Bay tunnel job now, but the dude's gotten on heights that I couldn't get on. He's went underground places I wouldn't go, and nobody will ever know. Like nobody even knows those people's stories or what they went through or like the kind of lives they lived. And they're like the people who create the fabric of society, and even the waitresses and the waiters and like all these factory jobs that I worked in, all those people, like you talk about the craziest place I ever worked and the craziest people I ever met was this little place called Perfect Air in Marion, North Carolina. And it was this commercial air conditioning factory, which is I think closed now, but they didn't pay very well. And so everyone they hired was either people that had criminal backgrounds who couldn't get jobs elsewhere, or idiots who dropped out of high school and couldn't work elsewhere like me. And so I was 18 years old working in this place with people who were mostly in their 50s and 60s. But you want to talk about being exposed to just a whole nother world of people, like, and just the stories and those people are far more interesting than many of the people that we consider to be celebrities. Like most people who are celebrities are just pretty boring and airheaded and don't really even know what real life is about. They're pretty unrelatable to the rest of the world. And so it would be really cool. I mean, that's the whole reason that I want to go out and do these shows in places that haven't had music in them in 10 years, because those people, like, that is America to me. You know, how many people in Pittsburgh have been an hour outside of Pittsburgh? And even in Virginia, if you lived in Northern Virginia and you drive 2.5 hours southwest, you're in a whole nother planet. Like the people, the accents, the culture. And so I feel driven in the same way. Like I would love to find a way to try to bridge that cultural gap, to make those people relevant and to make, because they are like some of the most, and it's funny because we emulate a lot of those people. Like, you know, modern country music is a bunch of people emulating those people,
right?
You know?
And there's also like, I love people that have a skill and become masters of that skill also. So that element is also there. Even if it's like insanely difficult work, like being a miner, like there's skill to that. There's stories there. There's like what it takes to do that. So, I mean, some of my favorite humans are engineers, and all they do is solve really hard problems, and they develop, I mean, it's a pain in the ass job.
Yeah.
Anything in the factory is extremely difficult, but you learn so much about what it takes to solve intricate, like nuanced problems in the physical world. So coal mining, oil rigs, like you mentioned, welding. That's a fascinating line of work.
And those are trades that are in many cases dying because because they aren't popular in culture anymore. For everything from agricultural to plumbing and electrical, it's like those are all areas I think if you were to go out and talk to some of those people and shed light on it, it would you could change the entire landscape in America of how it's perceived and make it cool, you know?
Yeah, so thank you what you're doing on that front. I want to say, I wrote it down. Please, if you know people that will be willing to talk, reach out to me. A good way to do that is lexfriedman.com/contact.
This was another one of the things early on that I had an idea about and I thought was getting done and it wasn't, that I've got to go back and try to figure out, is doing prison shows and doing rehab shows and all that. But I am really intrigued with like going into those places and trying to immerse myself in just the mental state that those people are in. And like, it's not talked about a whole lot, but
also people who get out, ex-convicts. I mean, that's a hard life. That's just a hard life to try to reintegrate back into society.
Yeah. And a lot of those people at Perfect Air that I worked with, they almost all were in some form of legal trouble. Like there was a lady that worked on the assembly line beside me named Denise, and her and her husband had been manufacturing methamphetamine, and he took the fall for most of it. She only had to go on probation. He was still in prison. But man, like Denise was a very sweet lady, and like aside from the meth manufacturing, like she was like great, you know, like and just such a character, like in such a good way. And so it's like, yeah, just
Denise, lexfriedman.com/contact. Let's talk. I mean, yeah, you know, like both sort of the plumbers and the coal miners, and Denise with the old meth habits. I mean, they're walking the line of like, you know, surviving is hard.
Yeah.
So you have to do a real hard job, and then you also have to live life, which is in general hard. You know, divorce, kids, people die, you lose like the medical issues, and that can destroy you completely. All of a sudden something happens, you can't afford it, the insurance system destroys people, all of that. So you have to somehow navigate life while working your ass off in a real hard job. And those people, they have stories. That's a real pain. And from that pain, from that anger, that's where Men North of Richmond, that was that you could just feel their pain come through with that song and with your other work. So that, like, there is a landscape of suffering.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that. We don't all have to be that decentralized either. Like if there is that much commonality among people, which I do believe there is, like just innately in suffering and yeah, like there's a guy in West Virginia that I talked to that he's got a piece of property beside of mine that he was interested in selling, but the reason he's got this dream of opening a like putting some cabins there and renting them out for people to come Airbnb. He works at Lowe's full time, but his son's like 19 and has got this heart surgery he's got to have, and so he's trying to sell the place for that. And just that guy, and all you'd ever see him as is the guy that works at Lowe's, like pulling lumber or whatever. But he's got this very insanely complex life he's trying to manage. He doesn't want to lose his son. Like he's just going to sell everything. And like at one point in time, maybe the church served that role of like when people really fell off track and they didn't have a support system and they were like on this tiny boat out in the ocean, they figured out some kind of way to rally. In my mind, that's like the dream of all this. If I die and there's any like legacy left or anything done, it's like finding a way to take all the people that fill that role and organizing them and empowering them and protecting them. It's rebuilding the community, but in a real way, not in like this fairy tale bullshit. Everybody's going to love each other and we're all just going to be one big happy family. Like everybody's still going to get mad and hate each other in certain ways. And that's good. Like we need those tornadoes. Like you said, we need people pissed off and angry, and we need people to feel like they can be angry and open about things that are wrong. Like people should be able to speak their mind, and we shouldn't all just kiss each other's ass, and we shouldn't all just pretend to be overly polite and say, "Hey, Debbie, you have a good weekend." Like you said, like we need all this controversy and this turmoil, and like we need the hell of what that side that the internet brings out in people, but it just needs to be in real life, and it needs to be in a way where we're all like, we all are at least chasing the same common goal, which is probably that we don't want to starve and we want to have decent health, and we want to be able to like provide a decent life for our kids, or at least we just don't, we just want to live a decent life. Like, I think somehow that fixes what you describe, like the people who fall in despair and are isolated. And it's a terrifying world to live in. It's that principle. Again, I need a phone a friend thing where we can just keep calling Jordan for all these things. But like he explains, there's this principle in the Bible about those who, about it, the more you have, the more you'll receive, and the less you have, the less you'll receive, kind of a thing. And it's just a universal law in society where it seems like the lower you get to the bottom, it's almost like the more like the less resources you have available, and the less friends you have, and it's like you just the further you go, snowballs into where it's like people just hit rock bottom, and then what? It's like when you get out of prison, what are you supposed to do? Or when you're a veteran with mental health, like what are you supposed to do? Like in my mind, that's what the church is supposed to be there for, is like, but obviously it doesn't fill that role anymore.
To some people, at least religion does a little bit. It gives, it's at least a foundation of community, a foundation of hope for people and when they're really struggling.
Yeah.
You got thousands of messages, like you talked about, from people. You gotten to talk to thousands of people about their pain. Through your work, through your music, you've been an inspiration to those people to find a way out of the pain. Can you tell the full story of your own lowest point? Before all of this, before the music, before you blew up, can you take me through the story of the depression, the drinking, and just the roughest times in your life?
Sometimes it's not even, it's funny, but it's almost not even where you're at in life. It's where you perceive yourself at in life and what your goals are moving forward. And I think like, I dropped out of high school at 17, basically ran away from home. I have always had this authority problem. And so I just didn't want to listen to my parents. I didn't want to go to college. I just wanted to go move into the mountains. I was running away from responsibility, I guess, is what I was doing, And so got this girl pregnant, had my first kid when I was 18 or just about to turn 19. And like I said, I'm working in an air conditioning factory with a bunch of convicted felons. And so from there, everything was just reactionary. I never really had a plan. I would jump from job to job, just like most everybody else. I don't know. I just got to a point where I guess I just quit believing in myself. And I knew that I wasn't filling my purpose, and I wasn't being the best version of myself I could be. And so the alternative to like facing yourself in the mirror and accepting that I'm not a shitty person, I've just let myself fall. It's like, it's so hard to accept when you've had that fall that it's just easier to just to get drunk and, just do the bare minimum you can to keep everything sort of kind of moving along. But you don't really care if you live or die. You don't really care about much anything. Like your whole, I don't know. Life is just so beautiful when you're a child. You're so imaginative and exploratory, and you're learning all these things, and you just can't wait to be an adult because you're just going to go out and do all these incredible, and then
you face the reality of it.
Yeah. And the pressure and the fear of failure. Like I think maybe even my own fear of failure is what drove me. And, but yeah, you think negatively about yourself for so many days and weeks and months, and you don't even have a real self-awareness of like what you're doing or how destructive you've become, but you always have that discernment in you, that like that conscious, that little voice in your spirit that is letting you know you're messing up,
Mm-hmm.
I was almost like, I was wrestling with myself, and so I don't know. I just got to a point where it's just like, just a very overwhelming sense of numbness. Like it don't, like nothing that mattered before really matters anymore. Like, I guess that's probably to me the definition of depression is when all the things you love and care about are just meaningless, and you really can't find meaning or purpose or excitement in anything. You know, like I think especially with men that commit suicide, it's a prolonged period of that. It's not like they just wake up one day and they have a bad day and they kill themselves. It's like you self-reflect negatively about yourself and your life, and you don't do the things that you're supposed to do every day for a long enough period of time. And it's like pretty soon you've built this whole mountain of of mismanaged, neglected stuff, for lack of a better word, like this mountain that you have to climb back up in order to fix all these things that you should have been doing all along. And then on the other side of it, it's like, well, I could just die. Like that seems a lot like, it's almost like, I think from a man's perspective, maybe the friends that I've had that I've lost, it seems like a lot of times you think you'd never see it coming, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe that's a general thing with, it seems like a lot of times men mask that better and you don't pick up on it as much, but I think it's like you just dig yourself into a point to where it's like you have a mountain of responsibility in front of you that you haven't faced, that you don't know how to face, and you haven't been able to do so for a long time. But there's this really easy detour, and it's just, you know,